Hope you're doing well. Well, I'm going to start all of these, in the next few devotions with this little train of thought. It's kind of struck me recently that I am getting old. Not that I want to get old, but it's just a fact of life. These things happen. Um, Much to be thankful for. Uh, we could look at life in various ways, but I have much to be thankful for. And I want to talk about certain aspects of the aging process that uh, are inherent with all of us. Uh, well, perhaps not all of us, but for me, let's just say it like that. For me, things that are part of my aging process. And one of the things that I noticed, especially when I moved, my father passed away in the last few years, and my mother had to be placed in a rehabilitation center, nursing home. We had to clear out the farmhouse, and I noticed. I just noticed. Now this, brings back a lot of interesting thoughts because you begin to realize that you're not much different, or perhaps this is genetic. That they had collected. I've never seen so many 5-gallon buckets. Like 5-gallon buckets were definitely, if they were worth anything, we'd have made a fortune. 5-gallon buckets and plastic containers and even jars, glass jars of just about any product that you would have purchased. If you use the product, you save the plastic container. Now I was thinking that perhaps this is just something that older folks do, and truthfully I believe it is. But why? Because we learn the value of things in life. We see value in that which is perhaps for most people unimportant, but for us, we see value in it. We realize it can be reused. We understand that it actually uh, may save us some pennies down the road, something that which, by the way, there aren't pennies anymore, but may save us some. And I thought, this is really quite interesting because these are perhaps traits that come along with the wisdom of growing older. We actually see the value in things that others may consider to be worthless. We realize that there's the opportunity for reuse, uh, kind of like, if you will, for each and every one of us that, God sees the little things in our life, doesn't he? And he uses those little things that seemingly are unimportant to other people, but they certainly aren't unimportant to him. One of the aspects of this is that, God takes these very little, seemingly insignificant aspects of life, he ties them all together, and we realize that there's a great purpose behind everything. God is actually doing these things in 2 Corinthians 4:15 for our sake, that these things are working, that God is utilizing these elements of life in a way that perhaps, even though others may see it as insignificant, it isn't insignificant to him. God will use the circumstance that may appear to be just a repetition of some other circumstance or something that we've seen before. He uses it. He teaches us through everything. I think to me, that's interesting. It opens up life. It allows us to see life in a different way, to view life from the viewpoint of God's perspective, if you will, the mind of Christ, and not just naturally as insignificant in 1 Corinthians 2:14 through 16, but to judge it in a different light, a heavenly light, a perspective that isn't necessarily understood by this world. I want you to think about all the aspects of your life that just have suddenly you're more aware than you once were. The things that just would have passed you by, but you've become more aware. I think perhaps as we grow older, we become more aware of the little things that God uses. At least I hope for all of us that we become more aware of God's great, not only intention, but his loving care over the circumstance and details of our life. If he cares, as it says there in Matthew chapter 10, about a sparrow that falls to the ground, then, and how much more does he care about us? Then if he's a good father, as he describes himself to be, and won't give us what isn't in our best interest, and when the Word of God speaks, if you ask your Father and for bread, he won't give you a stone, in Matthew 7 and verse 9 and on, then I would think that we have this relationship with God where he's actually seeking to draw us closer to him in a way, in the most minute ways, an awareness of him, an understanding that he is with us, that he's working in the midst of all these things, that in everything, we have the ability to recognize his presence. Even if we don't sense him there, we understand that he's there, that he's part of this us. Why, as Christians, in 1 Thessalonians chapter 5, verse 19 and on, we can be thankful. There's a degree of God's will in everything. Kind of makes everything pretty unique. And for each and every one of us, God has this for all of us. So, hey, growing old's not that bad. If for nothing else, I realize that plastic bags can be used more than once. I'm talking about sandwich bags. As long as there's no food that's dripped onto the sandwich bag, or snack bags that you've used to give dry snacks to your children. Look, I realized, I have come to the illuminated realization that they can be reused. Maybe not for the same purpose, maybe not for human consumption, but there's other uses that you can have with these. In fact, I have a whole host of bags right here that I've saved. Yep. Sign of getting older. Until next time, friends, God bless you.